Good afternoon, everyone. I'm back. Broadcast got interrupted, so I'm just going to start again as I wasn't too far in, and we'll just keep going. Welcome to day 8 of our 90-day vlog challenge, and the idea of this is to just keep going with it and to just do as much as we can, and eventually we will get to the 90 days. Maybe not within a 90-day period, but we'll get there. And hopefully they'll be a lot more frequent than they have been. But thank you for sticking with us and for watching and for giving us really awesome feedback. And it might not be directly where other people can see, but people that we've come across during our work, with our clients, family, friends, everyone who's been supporting us has been giving us really awesome feedback. So thank you. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about change and why change makes us all go, just like the emoji in the title today. And what inspired me to talk about change was a workshop that I was at yesterday. For those of you that follow us on Instagram, you would have seen that I was at a workshop yesterday because I supervise graduates as well as students who are finishing up. And as a supervisor of up-and-coming psychologists, I'm often talking about how to help clients work towards change, and I'm working on that with my own clients in terms of, they come to see people like me because they know that something feels off, they know that something doesn't feel right, or they're feeling a bit stuck in life, and they're just wanting some help to get unstuck. They're just wanting some help to cope with the change that's occurring in their life. Because, when we go through life, we all have our own repertoire of coping strategies, helpful or unhelpful or neutral or whatever they might be. And sometimes that can serve us and that can be useful, but sometimes it gets us to a certain point and that is no longer working for us anymore. And so in that instance, what happens is, things go a little bit pear-shaped sometimes, and it starts to affect us. And so when things change too much, so much so that our original toolbox isn't being helpful anymore, then, we need support with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's when we reach out, I guess, to be able to go, okay, well, I need some support, help me out with this. But change is effortful. It's so hard sometimes to maintain change. And why is that? So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about why that is. And hopefully that will give you some insights into then going, okay, I just got to keep going and doing what I'm doing. Because, you might be getting some feedback from people and they might be like, that's fantastic, what you're doing is awesome, keep doing it. And you're like, yes, but I really want this to change, and that's not working, and it's really, really stressful. And so when that occurs, what we need to do is we need to just keep up with things, because it's that persistence and it's the consistency of the action that brings about change. It just takes time. No one likes it when they hear that word time, because sometimes we want things to have been done yesterday, and unfortunately it doesn't always work like that, and there's reasons why. So just backtracking a little bit so I don't skip ahead too much. Change is something that we are often afraid of. Change is something that we don't like, and the reason why is because it's different. When we're changing a behavior, we're doing something differently. Imagine that you ate the same thing, the exact same thing for breakfast every single morning for 10 years, right? And all of a sudden, that particular thing that you were eating for breakfast was no longer being made. It was like the whole world stopped producing it. And then you had to eat something different. How wrong would that feel? How weird does it feel? How strange does it feel? But the consequence, I guess, of eating something different for breakfast isn't as big as something else. And when I mean consequence, I mean, the discomfort that's going to produce isn't going to be so massively or so drastic as something massive changing, like losing a loved one or something, or losing your job, or a friend not speaking with you anymore, or something else that could go. I mean, the list is endless, and they're just the examples that kind of come to my head in this moment. But it could be anything, any change that brings up a level of discomfort. The bigger that discomfort, the harder it is to cope with that change. Another example of that is think about a time when you've rearranged furniture in your house, and you've walked into that room and gone, whoa, something feels weird here. It feels different. But the more you walk into that room, after a while, you get used to it. It feels cozy and homely again. So that process of change and adjusting to change works the same way, but at different levels and on a bigger scale in different situations. And the thing that complicates it is our emotions. And when our emotions come in, whether it's sadness or grief, or anger or anxiety or frustration or irritability, or doubt or uncertainty, whatever the emotion it is, can complicate the way that we deal with it. But the process of doing it isn't too different. Sometimes we just need a bit of support to get through it and to keep us back on track with change and with behaviors so that we can keep going and so that change can happen in the long run. So I guess when we're trying to change, anything that we do isn't necessarily going to give us immediate relief. It's not always going to give us immediate change. Sometimes you will, and that's brilliant, and that's a byproduct. Like it's a side bonus, I guess. But what we're doing when we're putting things into place to change is putting steps in place, slow and steady, to have long-lasting change. And that's a lot more effective. And the reason why it takes time is because that's just the way our brain works. If we think about neuroanatomy and the way that a neuroplasticity, what that tells us is what the neuroscience tells us, and what neuroplasticity tells us, or the research on that tells us, is that the brain is capable of change. The brain does change itself. But what is required is consistent effort. It's like building a muscle. So if we go to the gym and we only go once a week to work out and exercise, you're not really going to feel too different. But if you go consistently, and if you go every week, and if you go a few times a week, and you do very familiar, very similar sort of exercises when you're there, fairly quickly your body starts to get stronger, your body starts to get fitter, your body is changing, right? Our brain is the same way. Even though our brain is an organ, it technically functions like a muscle because it needs that repetition for change to occur. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, ask us questions in the comments, and we can address them as we go along. So when that occurs, and things are happening consistently, then the brain is going, oh, okay, I need to notice this now. I need to pick up on this because this is new, this is different, it's repetitive, it's consistent, and that means that then becomes familiar behavior. So, that's one of the main reasons why change is so effortful. And if we're not consistent, and if we're not persistent, I guess, with our new behaviors that we want to implement that are helpful for us to feel better about things, for us to process and move forward with things, then the brain kind of gets mixed messages, and then it will slip back into old habits, because at the same time we have our memory. And our memory think of our memory, especially our long-term memory, as a really massive warehouse full of filing cabinets with every single experience that we've ever had that's really been significant enough, and that has a lot of emotional experiences attached to it, that's significant enough for us to kind of hang on to, whether it's helpful or unhelpful. What we then notice is if the brain's getting mixed messages in active everyday behavior, then what happens is it kind of reverts to, actually I'm getting mixed messages. What did we used to do? What did my person used to do that is what they need to be doing in order to know how to relate to the world around them, how to interact with the environment? And so it'll kind of go through those filing cabinets and find things that match. And what I mean by this is, like, for example, if you walk into a restaurant as an adult, you very well know what you need to do when you walk into a restaurant. But if you've never been in a restaurant before, you have to learn, and by looking around and observing with the environment, to learn how to interact in a restaurant. And by doing that, the brain will often make connections with already existing information so that you can learn how to do that. So what happens in that instance is it creates these expectations or blueprints, so to speak, of how to behave and how to think and things that come up and all that sort of stuff. And so if we're trying to change that, think about how much evidence or how much is in those filing cabinets. If we've been engaging in an unhelpful behavior for a little while, think about how much of that there is. And so if you're trying to change that, we can't just eliminate your memory. We can't just get rid of all of those past experiences. But what we can do is notice in this moment that they are influencing your present day behavior. And so when you notice that that's happening, we can simply label it by going, oh, there it is, that's an old behavior. I'm putting that back where it belongs. But what I'm actively choosing to do in this moment is this new behavior. And so we can use that to then go, okay, well, I'm shifting gears. I'm making a conscious choice to acknowledge that that's being triggered within me and wanting and possibly influencing my behavior in this moment, but I'm actively choosing to just let that be while I then implement the new change. But, we have to do this a lot of times. We have to do this fairly effortfully for a really long time, not years and years, but, a good few months, possibly even a little bit longer, but slowly and gradually kind of building up to that. So it's almost like you're building fitness, you're getting stronger, you're working through it. And when you're doing that, what you're doing is you're recognizing that change is happening. Change is happening, and it's what was change and what was effortful change starts to become it starts to become effortless. It starts to become familiar. It starts to become the new normal or your new normal of behavior. And that's when, we can start feeling better about things as well. And we can keep moving forward. So that's change. And that's really why change is effortful, is because we do have to put in effort for our brain to recognize, hey, change is happening, and hey, I need to do things a bit differently. And it happens by being consistent. So I hope you found that useful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we hope to catch you next time. Thanks.